On the day of my passing, Shu knelt beside my bed, weeping inconsolably. Eschew, in the next life, we shall be husband and wife again. Upon opening my eyes once more, I found myself returned to the age of 16. Today marks the day when the Prince of Pingyang's residence comes to propose. As per our agreement, Shu would also come to make his proposal. From behind the screen, I heard his voice. Shu, son of the Minister of Revenue Xuecheng, has come today to seek the hand of your esteemed second Mississippi. Upon hearing that the one he wished to marry was my second sister, I realized that he too had been reborn. I breathed a sigh of relief. I had no desire to set foot in that den of wolves known as the Xue family again. It is rumored that the heir of the Pingyang prince is quite the rogue, yet the royal household is uncomplicated and the princess consort is generous and magnanimous. Even though I rejected the proposal from the royal residence in my previous life, they still greeted me warmly thereafter. The royal household, a potential match. 1. I am a renowned noblewoman in the capital, having been trained in the art of managing household affairs and finances from a tender age. Accompanying my mother to various soirees, I conducted myself with such propriety that no one could find fault. My impeccable reputation in the city attracted suitors in droves. However, my heart belonged to Shu, and I persuaded my mother to decline all other proposals. Shu, with his striking good looks and literary prowess, had once fortuitously retrieved my lost fragrance pouch during our childhood. When he returned it, he merely lowered his gaze and entrusted it to my maid, exhibiting no inappropriate behavior, a true gentleman, embodying grace and benevolence. Later, I heard tales of his brilliance at poetry gatherings, and I was utterly captivated. We had secretly vowed to marry, with him promising to propose formally once he passed the imperial examination. I believed that marrying the one I adored would lead to a life of bliss. Yet, reality struck when Shu's mother arrived from the countryside, having faced ridicule from other noble women in her youth for her perceived coarseness. On our second day of marriage, she demanded that I adhere to strict decorum. Thereafter, I endured considerable tribulations. Although Shu verbally promised to entrust me with household management, the Xue family's finances were scant, leaving me responsible for all matters, both trivial and significant. Gradually, I found myself compelled to supplement our household with my dowry. Had Shu remained steadfast in his affections, all would have been well. Alas, a year into our marriage, his demeanor towards me grew indifferent, devoid of the ardor that once flourished. He remarked that life was simply meant to be lived this way, and I accepted, settling into a cordial coexistence. However, by the second year, he sought to take a concubine, his distant cousin whom his mother had summoned to the capital under the pretense of finding her a suitable match. To my dismay, it turned out that she was to be Shu's concubine. He insisted that it was merely to honor familial ties, assuring me that I would remain his primary wife. I believed him, dutifully partaking in the ceremonial tea for concubines. Yet, once she arrived, Shu often found excuses to avoid disturbing my rest, naturally spending nights with her. 3 months later, she announced her pregnancy, while I, after 2 years of marriage, had yet to conceive. Despite my efforts to remain magnanimous and composed, tears escaped me. Shu consoled me, suggesting that the child could be raised under my care. This was no consolation, it was an affront, as it implied that I was to recognize the illegitimate child as legitimate. My instincts told me that his involvement with that cousin was far from innocuous. I ordered an investigation, uncovering that the Xue family had indeed orchestrated her arrival in the capital to serve as Shu's concubine. I resisted, but regardless of the tonics and remedies I consumed, I remained barren. A year later, I sought the counsel of a renowned physician who, with subtlety, hinted that a woman's infertility could stem from male inadequacies. I feigned a request for a routine check, and the physician discerned Shu's impotence, rendering him incapable of fatherhood. I smiled. If he wished for me to rear a child of unknown parentage, then so be it. My heart simmered with vengeance, as the entire Xue household took pleasure in my plight. From that moment on, I embraced a more generous spirit, dismissing petty grievances, and found solace in living a long life until the age of 67. When Shu wept at my bedside, professing a desire to be with me in the next life, I thought to myself, that is quite unnecessary. I reflected on how neither his son nor grandson bore his lineage, and after his passing, the Xue family would undergo a complete transformation. My death would be met with a smile. When I was to marry Xue Su, my dear friend Ayu had warned me that the Xue family was not a good match. I can only hope that Ayu remains clear-eyed, never to be ensnared in the troubles of others while neglecting her own. 2. You wish to marry me? Ayu entered, clad in a pomegranate-hued dress, her face alight with indignation. Xue Su bowed, seemingly oblivious to the fury etched upon Ayu's features, and with a charming smile declared, "Miss, your innocence and beauty captivate my heart." To his astonishment, Ayu offered him no quarter.
Pa.
A fickle and pretentious scholar, such individuals are the bane of my existence. I shall never marry you. Ayu, with her fiery temperament, was the antithesis of my own demeanor, having always displayed an affinity for charming creatures. When she witnessed the Xue family's treatment of me, she was ready to confront Xue Su, but I restrained her. She urged me to seek a divorce and remarry elsewhere, advising against wasting my life within the confines of the Xue household. Yet, I had no one else to love, and I had grown accustomed to the Xue family. The thought of starting anew was daunting. Upon discovering Xue Su's infertility and the deception that enveloped me, I could not muster any warmth towards the elderly matriarch who had tormented me. While it was acceptable for her to manage the household, it was unacceptable for her to dip into my private savings. The family lacked funds? Very well, let us live frugally. During our most destitute times, 7 of us subsisted on 3 vegetarian dishes. What could be done? My husband was merely a poor scholar yet to secure a government position, and my father-in-law's monthly stipend was insufficient to sustain such a household. I found myself at an impasse.
What?
Use my dowry? If this word got out, and someone in the court were to suggest that the Xue family relied on their daughter-in-law's dowry for survival, it would surely tarnish my father-in-law's career. However, the Xue family was not truly impoverished. After all, they hailed from a ministerial lineage. Surely they would not starve. The matriarch, intent on tormenting me, insisted on extravagant supplements. Having once been considerate of the family, I had initially contributed a substantial sum. Later, I reclaimed that money, resulting in a significant outflow of funds. Ayu had been pulled aside by our mother. Observing Xue Su's somewhat stiff demeanor, I smiled. His proposal to Ayu stemmed from her naivete, unlike my own discernment. Seeing Ayu remain unfold, I felt a sense of resolve as I stepped out from behind the screen. Upon seeing me, family members regarded me with concern. Fully aware of my affection for Xue Su, Ayu approached, her grip on my arm tight with frustration. You must not be disheartened. Recognizing his true nature now is a blessing, far better than discovering it after marriage. I gazed at my sister, whom I had always deemed simple-minded. In truth, she possessed far greater clarity, embodying the wisdom of seeming folly. Noticing Xue Su's averted gaze, I maintained my composure. Young Master Xue, please take your leave. The young lady of the Ming family will not be marrying you. Father, please summon the people from the Pingyang prince's residence. Ayu urged anxiously. Even if you are upset, do not resort to despair. That heir is notoriously reckless. You cannot marry him. Li Hengzhan, whom I had encountered a year prior while shopping, had caught my attention when I heard a commotion outside my carriage. A young man had been harassing a girl in the street. Just as I was about to send a servant to intervene, the youth had charged from the crowd, delivering a kick to the man's face. I disdain scoundrels like you who prey on innocent women. I will teach you a lesson. The man stumbled back, blood streaming from his nose. Enraged, he shouted, Do you know who I am? How dare you touch me? The young man, arms crossed defiantly, retorted, I am Li Hengzhan, heir to the Pingyang prince. Now, who are you? The man, realizing the identity of his assailant, fled in disgrace. Li Hengzhan, with a haughty toss of his hair, wore an expression of triumph. 3. Even after marriage, I occasionally heard whispers of Li Hengzhan's name. He seemed to harbor an intense rivalry with Xue Su. For there were times when my husband returned home with bruises, and as I tended to his injuries, I would listen to his grievances about Li Hengzhan's unwarranted aggression. Initially, I too lamented the brash actions of this impulsive youth, blaming him for inflicting harm upon my husband. However, as Xue Su entered government service and Li Hengzhan followed suit, securing an official position, I had come to realize that Li Hengzhan, too, was incapable of fatherhood. Frequently, Li Hengzhan would pen accusations against Xue Su, decrying him for inviting colleagues for drinks and forming cliques one day, and chastising him for the dirt on his official robes the next, claiming it was disrespectful to the emperor. Xue Su, weary both in body and spirit, found himself helpless against this onslaught. At that moment, my impression of Li Hengzhan improved significantly. If one were to describe Li Hengzhan, it would be to say that he is truly steadfast in his convictions. His disdain for Xue Su led him to confront the latter throughout his life. This animosity extended to all associated with Xue Su, from his father-in-law to Xue Su's son, who were all equally targeted by him. I observed this fierce rivalry with great interest, finding Li Hengzhan to be quite an admirable person. Notably, he never married in his lifetime and, in his middle age, adopted a child from a collateral branch of the family to carry on his legacy. His health was robust, and when I passed away, he was still very much alive, perhaps a testament to the physical prowess he had cultivated through his confrontations with Xue Su. Having experienced a myriad of events in my previous life, regardless of what others might say, Li Hengzhan holds a positive place in my memory. A fundamentally good person, even if he does not love you, would never deign to belittle you. If I were to marry, he would be an excellent choice. Xue Su and the matchmaker accompanying him were dismissed. Upon their departure, he appeared quite perplexed. Could he possibly think that Aya would wish to marry him? Aya's amiable demeanor towards him stemmed solely from my affection for him, thus granting me some favor in her eyes. Yet this led him to harbor such thoughts, perhaps due to the excessive deference shown to him. Servants were sent to summon people from the Wang residence. According to protocol, I was not to be present in the main hall. However, Kaiwa could relay to me the events transpiring there. To my astonishment, I learned that the Wang residence held me in such high regard. Kaiwa spoke with an air of excitement. Miss, the Pingyang Wang residence has sent a multitude of guests. At the forefront was the Grand Princess, followed by the Pingyang Wang and his wife, along with several relatives who, though unfamiliar to me, bore the attire of nobility. Excluding the servants, there were more than 10 individuals present. This impressive display took me by surprise, leaving Aya in a state of shock for a considerable time. Even the Grand Princess has come. This is unprecedented in the capital, she remarked. The Grand Princess had remained in seclusion since the death of her husband, rarely venturing out. Yet, for the purpose of a marriage proposal, the Wang residence had summoned her forth. In stark contrast, Xue Su's attitude towards me was glaringly apparent. Yet, at that time, I was blinded by my emotions, unable to discern right from wrong. With my consent, the engagement was, unsurprisingly, established. On the second day of the engagement, an invitation arrived from the Grand Princess's residence, inviting me to a flower viewing banquet. I suspected that this event was likely arranged in my honor. Upon arriving at the Grand Princess's residence, I was led by a maid to a cool pavilion. Upon spotting Li Hengzhan, my suspicions transformed into certainty. Clad in a blue brocade robe and wearing a crown of white jade, he stood tall like a pine tree. In an instant, I perceived a resemblance to Xue Su in him. The last time I had seen him, he was adorned in fiery red, exuding flamboyance and arrogance. Noticing my gaze upon his attire, he became visibly tense. Do you think I look well-dressed? He stammered. I pursed my lips and shook my head, noticing his complexion pale slightly. This attire does not suit you. Your usual attire is far more appealing. As snow melts and spring returns, he unconsciously stepped forward before hastily retreating. Do you remember me? I had initially speculated that he might be dissatisfied with this engagement, but it seemed otherwise. We have met. But did you come today to withdraw from the engagement? No. He quickly denied. I merely wished to ascertain if you consented to this marriage of your own volition. It is as it is, or it is not as it is, he replied, his expression faltering. If it were not so, I would find a way to withdraw. Matters of marriage are of utmost importance, and it would not do to compel you into a situation that causes you distress. I could not help but smile. Li Hengzhan truly was a remarkable individual. Seeing my smile, he too broke into a grin, albeit with an endearing awkwardness. Observing his outfit, which was so ill-suited to him, I gently remarked, "Please refrain from dressing in such a manner in the future." It appeared rather unfortunate. After saying this, I felt a twinge of regret. Despite our engagement, I was perhaps meddling too much. All right, he nodded earnestly, and I was taken aback. He clasped his hands behind his back, his gaze fixed on his toes. Miss Ming, you need not be so formal in my presence. Feel free to speak your mind. I am quite pleased that you can guide me. The sincerity of his youthful heart was both direct and unrefined. Those bright eyes, devoid of any impurity, shone like the sun piercing through darkness, illuminating my heart with an unbidden radiance. In that moment, all the peculiarities fell into place. Li Hengzhan, I have uncovered your secret. You hold feelings for me. I was unaware of when he had first seen me. In this life, and the last, this was our first time standing face to face. I have a gift for you, he declared. He presented a palm-sized box made of rosewood, adorned with a red gemstone. He opened the lid to reveal a smooth jade bracelet resting upon red silk, a sight that struck me as familiar. With a single glance, I recognized the bracelet's considerable worth. It was far too precious to be given away casually. Noticing my hesitation, he regretfully tapped his forehead. Am I being inappropriate? Please don't be upset. This is just an ordinary bracelet, devoid of any special significance. Only a craftsman has touched it before you. I have not laid hands upon it. So, it is quite clean. I felt a lump in my throat. He was being overly cautious. I am not concerned about such matters. Even if you had touched it, it would not matter. I merely find this jade bracelet exceedingly valuable and difficult to accept. If the people of the Wang residence were to witness this, they would surely feel distressed. It is not valuable. Whatever I give to you, I feel it is never quite good enough. I accepted the box just as the maid returned. Miss Ming, the banquet is about to commence. Please follow me. I offered a slight curtsy to Li Hengzhan. He appeared anxious. Miss Ming, wait for me. I shall come to marry you. After uttering this, his eyes were glued to my expression, not daring to look away. All right. Upon hearing my reply, his chest heaved, yet he maintained a facade of calmness. Until we reached the corner, I caught sight of him leaping high into the air, silently pumping his fist and grinning broadly. His attire seemed more of a burden than anything. Li Hengzhan and Xue Su were polar opposites. Xue Su was dignified, cunning, and skilled in the art of pretense, while Li Hengzhan was carefree, with clear distinctions between love and hate, never concealing his emotions. I surmised that Li Hengzhan likely harbored feelings for me, yet I had not realized how deeply he cherished these sentiments, enough to remain unmarried for life after a failed proposal. The image of his starry-eyed gaze upon my acceptance of the engagement lingered in my mind. I wondered if those eyes had ever shed tears when I married Xue Su. The courtyard was still, yet the begonia bush in the corner swayed incessantly. I had thought that the banquet was merely a ruse. Perhaps the Grand Princess wished to meet me privately. To my surprise, the maid indeed escorted me to the banquet hall. As I arrived, the Grand Princess made her grand entrance, resplendent in her attire. The majesty of royalty was not to be gazed upon directly. I lowered my head and, alongside other noble young ladies, performed the customary greetings. Bejeweled shoes adorned with Eastern pearls passed before me. Moments later, a voice resonated from above. No need for excessive formalities. Please take your seats. The maid guided me to sit in the first position to the right of the Grand Princess. This seat was undeniably significant. The flower-viewing banquet proceeded smoothly, without any hiccups. As the guests departed, the maid informed me, Miss Ming, the Grand Princess requests your presence. Following the maid to the edge of the pond, I noticed 2 fishing rods had been set up. I often come here to fish when I have nothing to do. Would you like to join me? The Grand Princess appeared from behind me, and I bowed in response. I am at your service, Your Highness. A hand reached out to gently support my wrist. You are Abao's fiancé, so you should call me Auntie as well. We are family, no need for formalities. Abao. Was this Li Hengzhan's childhood name? Your Highness's kindness is appreciated, but since we are not yet wed, such formalities cannot be overlooked. The person before me chuckled lightly. I have long heard that the esteemed princess has 2 daughters, one lively and one reserved, one who cannot be restrained from fighting since childhood, and another who is as proper as if she has swallowed a book. Please take a seat. There are no outsiders present, and I, too, wish to cast aside these formalities. I observed the princess reclining on a chair, One leg crossed over the other, her sleeves rolled to her elbows, exuding an air of casualness. I had anticipated that a widowed princess would embody the melancholy of a setting sun. Yet the person before me bore no trace of sorrow. I sat beside her, upright and composed, unlike her relaxed posture. Silence enveloped us, broken only by the occasional splash of fish in the pond. As time wore on, my lower back began to ache. Very well, let us conclude for today. With no fish caught, the princess rose, brushed her hands together, and placed her hands on her hips. I take my leave. Ashu, may I call you that? If your highness wishes to address me thus, it is my honor. Abeo has frequently visited my residence since childhood. I have watched him grow. I can see that he truly cares for you. I do not say this to impose any moral obligation upon you, but merely to suggest that he is a fine person. If you are inclined, you might consider opening your heart to him. I was taken aback. I understood that the princess had summoned me for a private conversation, perhaps to admonish me or simply to chat. I did not expect her to speak thus, though I did not fully grasp the meaning behind her mention of moral obligation. Her intent was unmistakable. Despite her noble status, she referred to herself simply as I in my presence. In this moment, she was not a princess, but merely a senior of Li Hengzhan. She did not wield her power to intimidate, but rather offered her counsel with kindness, urging me to consider. Upon exiting the princess's residence, I noticed another carriage following mine. A matron approached and said, "This is a gift from His Highness. Miss Ming need not decline." Once aboard the carriage, I retrieved the box from my sleeve and whispered softly, "I should have seen this before." That night, I dreamt I returned to the day after my wedding in my previous life. After observing the customary rites, Kyra informed me that she had organized the list of gifts and asked me to check the storeroom. While comparing items, I discovered a box of unknown provenance. Kyra opened it to reveal a bracelet nestled within. Puzzled, she asked, could it be that someone below made an error and forgot to note it? Ultimately, we could not ascertain its origin, as it bore no name and was not recorded in the storeroom. I took the bracelet and its box back to my courtyard, placing it deep within my dressing cabinet, never to be seen again. The scene shifted, bringing me to the day before my demise. At that time my health was well, and I was no different from usual. Sitting in the courtyard under the sun, I heard a maid's startled exclamation from within the house. Kai Wei, now an elderly maid, went to investigate, followed closely by a trembling young girl. This maid was cleaning the room and broke a bracelet. My heart skipped a beat, a sense of panic rising within me. Gazing at the shattered pieces of the bracelet, I had long forgotten when I had acquired such an ornament. The young maid, no more than 10 years old, turned pale and knelt on the ground, her forehead striking the floor repeatedly. I felt a twinge of compassion. Rise. It is no great matter. Just be more careful in the future. The next day, I passed away, without illness, injury, or pain, as if I had merely drifted into sleep. I suddenly awoke, clutching my chest, inhaling deeply several times. I picked up the box at my bedside and opened it once more. Groping my way to the window, I opened it to the night, which was as tranquil as water. The bracelet gleamed with a lustrous glow, my hands clasping it tightly. I had seen this bracelet twice before, once after my marriage and once before my death. This was the third time, yet it pertained to my next life. The candlelight within the room flickered back to life as Kaiwe, yawning, approached to drape a garment over my shoulders. "Miss, take care not to catch a chill." Kaiwe, have you ever received a great favor, one so immense that you found yourself at a loss for how to repay it? Kaiwe looked puzzled but replied nonetheless. "Miss, you know that I sold myself into the Xiong residence due to my family's poverty. As a child, our food was scarce, and I often went hungry. A kind-hearted older brother from a neighboring household would occasionally give me food. Otherwise, I might have starved. At that time, I thought of him as a living bodhisattva. When he became an official, I vowed to serve him without expecting any pay. He was very clever, excelling in his studies. He could memorize anything at a glance, and the people of our village regarded him as a prodigy." As she spoke, a memory stirred within me. In my past life, after my marriage, I had once overheard her stifling her sobs in a corner. When I asked what was wrong, she revealed that her benefactor had hanged himself after failing the imperial examination. Later, When Kaiwa reached marrying age, I asked if she wished to leave the household, but she merely shook her head. She had remained by my side throughout my life in the Xue family. Could it be that her benefactor was indeed the older brother she spoke of? If he was truly as remarkable as she described, with an extraordinary memory, he should have at least achieved the rank of a successful candidate in the examinations, if not among the top 3. Moreover, he must have been quite young then. How could he have acted so rashly? To take his own life over a failed exam. What was your benefactor's name? His name was Zheng Huayan. It is said that this name was chosen by Aunt Zheng for 5 copper coins. Seeing her gaze filled with admiration, I smiled gently. Would you like to have your own name? She appeared somewhat embarrassed. As a maid, I am not worthy of a name. At home, I was called simply Doggy, and now, being by the Mrs. side feels like a dream come true. I grasped her hand, silently vowing that if there were hidden truths, this time, I would ensure that her benefactor survived. The following day at noon, a maid arrived. Miss, someone from the Wang residence has come to convey a message. You and the young master are a perfect match, most auspicious indeed. It is said that the national master himself calculated this. The maid presented a box. This is a decree. The national master instructed that only the miss may read it. I opened the paper, which contained only 4 lines. A fated union, no flaws to be found, lacking one, fulfillment is hard to achieve. Past grievances now renewed. In this life, hand in hand, we shall share glory. I promptly folded the paper. That will be all. Please inform my mother that she may handle everything as she sees fit. Clutching the paper, I hurried back inside and closed the door. Kaiwa stood outside, anxious. Miss, are you all right? I am fine. Go about your business. Once she departed, I trembled as I reopened the paper, repeatedly scrutinizing the 4 lines. In the end, I set it alight with a candle's flame and cast it into the incense burner, reducing it to ash. Although I often accompanied my mother to the mountains to pay homage to the Buddha, I had never believed in supernatural forces before my rebirth. Even in this new life, I dared not mention such matters to anyone. Yet I had not anticipated that the national master would be aware of the events surrounding me. In my previous life, Xue Su had informed me that my fate was highly compatible with his. The decree was indeed accurate. However, if my connection with Xue Su was one of ill fate, then only 2 possibilities remained. Either the fortune teller was a charlatan, declaring heavenly matches to anyone, or Xue Su had deceived me regarding this matter. My heart was heavy with frustration, and I had no desire to discern the truth. I simply wished to place all blame upon Xue Su. He had already committed numerous wrongs. Adding more to his burden seemed fitting. I usually conducted myself with propriety, yet in this moment, I felt an urgent desire to see Li Hengzhan. A knock sounded at the door.
Come in.
Kaiwa entered, carrying 2 food boxes. Miss, this is from the 100 Flavors Pavilion, sent by a young gentleman named Li. They say these are delicacies newly offered by his family. I suspect it was the young master who ordered them. But how did he know that you enjoy the food from 100 Flavors Pavilion? As she busily unpacked the offerings, she muttered to herself. Miss has always been well-mannered, never once dining in establishments, and her servants do not dare to mention her name when procuring goods. Yet, this young master is surprisingly aware of the custom that Miss must taste any new dishes that arrive. Indeed, the table was lavishly set. I could not suppress a smile. After savoring a bite, the earlier tumult of my thoughts gradually settled. A letter arrived from the gatekeeper, devoid of a name. Upon opening it and recognizing the handwriting, I immediately discerned it was penned by Xue Su. A Shu, let us meet at the usual place tomorrow morning. Miss, whose letter is it?
Su.
He wishes to meet. Kai-Yu's eyes widened in disbelief. What? He dares to write to you? She gazed at me, with hesitation. Miss, you wouldn't. I lightly tapped her on the head. Do you think your mistress is the type to cling to past connections? Burn it. I had no interest in what Xue Su wished to convey. It was merely a desperate plea upon realizing his hopes of marrying a Yu had evaporated, and he was now turning his attention towards me. Or perhaps he had guessed that I too had been reborn. Xue Su is no fool. Seeing my resolute demeanor, he would likely entertain such thoughts. Yet, I had no intention of meeting him merely to placate his whims. I had perused a Yu's storybook, where the female protagonist, out of desperation, confronts her unfaithful lover, only to be led into a trap that reveals her husband's gaze upon them, sowing discord between them. Though the tale concludes happily, such antics are wholly unnecessary. I have no qualms about rejecting his advances. Shuesu possesses no evidence, and being reborn himself, he would not dare fabricate lies. After all, in this matter, we are but two grasshoppers on the same string. Should he lose his wits and act recklessly, the consequences would befall us both. Time passes swiftly. I generally refrain from venturing outside unless necessary. Shuesu intermittently sent several letters. After glancing through them and finding nothing of value, I reduced them to ashes. The wedding date was set for 2 months hence. It felt rushed, yet the Bureau of Astronomy declared it the most auspicious day of the year. Li Hengzhan dispatched a letter inquiring about my thoughts. Should I wish for a delay, he would send someone to select another date. There was no need to consider anything but my own happiness. As I perused the heartfelt words on the letter, though plain and unembellished, they warmed my heart far more than any ornate prose. Caillou, prepare the ink. Caillou was taken aback. Miss, are you going to reply to the young master? You never correspond with men outside the family, why now? To her, my adherence to propriety seemed ingrained in my very being, even in my past life. When I harbored the deepest affection for Shuesu, I never responded to his letters, nor did I give him any personal mementos. At most, I would send a verbal message. This is different. We have already set a wedding date, and writing a letter is not a significant matter. I penned only 2 sentences. Marriage involves 2 parties. I did not wish for Li Hengzhan to constantly indulge me. Knowing he cherished me dearly, I should not act capriciously and squander his affections. An hour later, the messenger returned, holding a handful of gold coins, trembling as he approached. I delivered the letter, and the gatekeeper invited me in. Shortly thereafter, the young master rushed over, ecstatic upon learning you had written to him. After reading the letter, he personally gave me these gold coins, saying it was to celebrate, and instructed me to share them with the ladies in the courtyard to spread the joy. Since he has given it to you, it belongs to you. Take it and share it with everyone, giving him a bit extra. The messenger's face lit up with excitement. I recall your mother is gravely ill, and your father is aged and unable to work. Take this money and live well. He immediately bowed, tears streaming down his face. Thank you, miss, for your great kindness. This young man was well-mannered, aware that such a sum should not be kept for himself. He was also dutiful, supporting his parents without a word of complaint. I had heard of his circumstances from Caillou in my previous life. Upon learning of his plight, I had instructed Caillou to find him some work, providing him with a modest reward. Upon receiving the silver, he promptly went to the apothecary to fetch medicine for his ailing mother. With 5 days remaining until the wedding, my mother suggested we visit the temple to seek a talisman for peace. My mother, Ayu, and I went to the temple together. While my mother sought the talisman, Ayu and I noticed the trees adorned with red silk. Ayu tilted her head and asked, "Would you like to write a wish? I hear it is quite effective. You should write one too. Let us do it together." I penned my wish, and Ayu swiftly climbed the tree to tie our red silks at the highest point. "A thief has stolen my purse. Young lady, quickly catch him." Sensing something amiss, I called out to Ayu, but she had already been lured away. Upon seeing the newcomer, a chill spread across my brow. "Is this your method?" Shuesu raised his hand in greeting. "Miss Ming, please forgive me. I have no other recourse but this." I remained silent, maintaining a distance of 2 yards. "May I have a word?" I chuckled softly. Does young Master Shui not understand the principle that a gentleman does not stand beneath a crumbling wall? This place is crowded, making it quite suitable for our discussion. If it were merely the 2 of us, any imprudent words he uttered could tarnish my reputation. He need not act. Just the slightest utterance could lead to my downfall. He approached eagerly, only to be seized by the collar by someone taller than him, and I could not help but lower my head slightly to stifle a laugh at his comical predicament. If young Master Shui wishes to converse with my betrothed, I would be delighted to listen. Shuesu tugged at his collar. "Your Highness, this matter concerns me and eschew." Upon hearing him refer to me so, my brow furrowed. He was doing this deliberately. I anxiously watched Li Hengzhan, fearing he might be provoked by Shuesu's scheme.
Lienzan's fists clenched tightly.
"Young master," I called out to him. He exhaled sharply, crossing his arms as he looked down at Shui Su. Young Master Shui, referring to a young lady in the boudoir in such a manner, I wonder which sage's tome you gleaned this decorum from. I shall certainly visit Minister Shui one day to inquire whether it is a family tradition. Shui Su's countenance turned pale, and after casting a lingering glance at me, he hastily departed, feigning calmness. Li Hengzhan turned to me. Are you all right? Fearing a misunderstanding akin to that in the storybook, I replied candidly. He said that on purpose, intending to provoke you into striking him, which would tarnish your reputation.
Lienzan nudda.
I understand. You no longer harbor feelings for him. His words caught me off guard, leaving me both amused and exasperated. I was uncertain whether to commend his perceptiveness or feel pity for his humility. It was as if he could read my thoughts. Amidst the clamor, I heard him say, Miss Ming, you need not pity me. Your willingness to wed me is the greatest blessing I could ever receive. Miss, someone from the palace has arrived. Are they delivering gifts again? It is no surprise I inquire so. Li Hengzhan is indeed favored by the royal family. His father is a prince, his aunt a princess, and his uncle the emperor. All those princes and princesses are his kin, and his amiable nature allows him to mingle well with everyone. Since the engagement was agreed upon, waves of gifts have been bestowed upon us. Previously, I had only heard that Li Hengzhan was a favored child of the royal family. I regarded it as mere gossip. Now, however, I genuinely understand the truth behind the term favored child, which is no exaggeration. I am indeed basking in his good fortune.
No.
They are here to deliver the wedding attire. More hurried footsteps approached the door. Miss, someone from the Pingyang Wangfu has come to present the wedding garments. Of course. The day after tomorrow is the grand wedding. It is only logical that Li Hengzhan, as the young master, should have the palace-tailored wedding garments. 2 sets of wedding attire were delivered to my courtyard, and as I gazed at the table, I couldn't help but smile at the outfit I had crafted myself. Since the palace had graciously sent the wedding garments, it was only fitting that I would wear it on the day of my grand nuptials. I lifted the red cloth covering the wedding dress sent from the Prince Pingyang's residence. The vibrant crimson bridal gown was adorned with lustrous pearls at the collar, while intricate floral embroidery was crafted with golden threads throughout. The materials used were exquisite, and it was evident that this entire ensemble had been meticulously created over a considerable span of time. However, the craftsmanship of the veil left much to be desired. Embroidered with the phrase dragon and phoenix present harmony in matching hues, the stitches, though fine, clearly did not match the level of the gown itself. Why would the royal residence send such a thing? Could it be a mistake? Did the people from the royal residence leave any message? I inquired.
Yes.
They asked if the lady's bracelet still fit well, came the reply. The bracelet? Kaiwe seemed puzzled. If they were inquiring about the lady, why did they leave without a response? My fingers lightly brushed the embroidery, and a thought crossed my mind, causing the corners of my lips to lift slightly. When I parted ways with Li Hengzhan that day, he had said something. Miss Ming, in a few days, I will present you with a gift, and I hope when you see it, you will not mock me. I waited and waited, yet the gift never came. I initially thought he had forgotten, but strangely, I felt a pang of ungraspable disappointment. Upon seeing the veil, his careful demeanor while stitching began to play in my mind. Perhaps, in the beginning, his fingertips were dotted with needle holes. For someone who had never engaged in embroidery, to achieve such a result would be exceedingly challenging. On the day of the grand wedding, just before stepping out, I asked Kaiwa to help me place the veil atop my head. She murmured, "This veil is truly rather unappealing. Why would the young lady wish for it?" She continued to grumble as she draped it over me. I had no elder brother, and Ayu stubbornly insisted on carrying me out. Ayu was slightly taller than I, but the layers I wore today were quite heavy. As I leaned on her, she carried me steadily without a hint of wobble. I could hear her voice, calm yet tinged with emotion. "Sister, I do not understand what you think about marrying the heir. I have always felt your judgment lacking, the previous hypocrite and now this rogue. But as long as it is your decision, I will support you. If he ever acts foolishly, divorce him. You will always be my sister. Forever the esteemed daughter of the Xiang family." I couldn't help but chuckle. Even at this moment, she still managed to poke fun at me. I embraced her neck. "Ayu, take good care of our parents and yourself. There is no need to worry about me. Your sister is not foolish. I will find my own solutions if life becomes difficult. In my past life, aside from the initial heartbreak, the rest of my days were quite comfortable. After all, my father was a chancellor and my mother was a general. Ever since I was young, my mother had advised me, Aishu, you may be a person of propriety, but do not become overly rigid. Learn to find comfort in all matters. I have always kept this advice close to my heart. Thus, I do not align with the image others have of me. I only adhere to decorum with those who possess it. Consequently, in my previous life, my mother-in-law, the scheming Shuesu, concubines, and illegitimate children could not rise against me. As for my father-in-law, he was singularly focused, with only state affairs occupying his mind. Ayu carried me into the flower palanquin, the sound of the procession echoing all around. By the time we arrived at the bridal chamber, my neck was already aching from the weight of the headdress. As I entered, Li Hengzhan appeared in the room. What brings you here? You should be outside, hosting the guests. I cultivate friendships for occasions like today. To avoid drinking, he replied. He gently lifted the veil, his eyes sparkling with uncontainable joy. Li Hengzhan instructed the servants to prepare everything, then dismissed the onlookers. Before they had even left, he pulled me to sit at the edge of the bed. You must be tired today, he said, as he began to remove the ornamental hairpins from my head. As he undid my hair, a wave of relief washed over my scalp. Though I had lived 2 lifetimes, I felt a warmth rising to my cheeks at this moment. He cleaned my face gently and arranged a table laden with dishes, all my favorites. It is far better to dine with you than to drink with them. Upon uttering the term wife, he appeared slightly awkward, his cheeks reddening. Today, Li Hengzhan looked exceedingly handsome. His natural good looks were accentuated by the vibrant red attire he wore. He hurriedly served me, anxious that I might not eat enough. I savored each bite, listening to his musings. This is wonderful. I looked up to see him propped on the table with one hand, the other holding chopsticks, simply gazing at me. What is so wonderful? I asked. It is wonderful that you have married me. A goofy smile spread across his face. I have always believed myself fortunate, and it seems the deities truly favor me. The National Master was correct. Those destined for each other will inevitably cross paths. I paused, feigning disinterest. Oh? You have conversed with the National Master? He nodded. That bracelet, I actually asked the National Master for a blessing regarding it. The National Master, a disciple of the Gathering Immortals Valley, is said to have genuine abilities for the fortune of the great yen. I shared my feelings with him, and he conveyed such words. He said although we have faced obstacles, a favorable outcome awaits us. I was hesitant to believe it before. A buzzing filled my ears as his words swirled in my mind. May I meet the National Master? I have long heard of his esteemed name, yet have never had the chance to meet him, which is a great regret. Li Hengzhan readily agreed. That is quite simple. Tomorrow, after we pay respects to our parents with tea, I will take you to the palace to express our gratitude. At that time, we can visit the stargazing terrace, where the National Master often resides. The next day, as Li Hengzhan and I arrived at the stargazing terrace, a young acolyte approached us. Young lady of the air, the National Master has prepared hot tea. Please follow me. Li Hengzhan's face lit up. The National Master is indeed remarkable. He even knows this. The acolyte raised a hand. Your Highness, the National Master has requested only to see the young lady. You shall please wait downstairs. He offered an awkward smile. In that case, please take the young lady up. I observed him as he waved dismissively. Go on. Do not be afraid. The National Master is very easygoing, a kind old man. Not frightening at all. How true that was. To speak so casually in front of a disciple of the National Master was indeed rather bold. The stargazing pavilion had 9 floors, and I followed the acolyte up to the entrance of the 9th floor. You may ascend. The National Master awaits you above. The 9th floor was simply adorned. The National Master sat cross-legged on a mat, and upon seeing me, he poured a cup of hot tea and placed it on the opposite side. Please take a seat. His visage was aged yet spirited, with a head full of white hair and a beard, dressed in flowing white garments that bestowed upon him an aura of celestial elegance. I settled onto the mat across from him and sipped at the tea. He lifted his cup as well, the steam absent yet the scent of wine wafting through. He laughed heartily. I have never been fond of tea. I have preferred fine wine since childhood. He downed the contents of his cup in one gulp. I know you have questions in your heart. Feel free to ask. Master, I wish to know why I have been granted a second chance at life. Because this is the path you were originally meant to traverse. In your previous life, you strayed. Your fates are intertwined. When you faltered, so did he, leading him astray as well. That was not the path intended for him. Are you saying that my rebirth is due to the heir's altered destiny? The National Master disregards worldly matters, yet would intervene to change his fate. My hands instinctively clenched beneath my sleeves. So, the heir is not an ordinary person. His influence will extend far, correct? This explains the reason for your presence in the Great Yen. The young lady of the heir is astute. My pupils constricted as my heart raced, feeling as if it might leap from my chest. Since I have been reborn, it signifies that certain matters are irrevocable. May I inquire about the events of my past life? Why has Xue Su also experienced a rebirth? The National Master shook his head. This is a heavenly secret. I can divulge only this much. To say more would cost me my life. As for young Master Xue, he is here to bear the weight of causality. His tone held a hint of jest, yet I understood that reaching this juncture must have exacted a considerable toll from him. I shall ask but one final question. To what age did Li Hengzhan live in my previous life? The National Master sighed softly. Beauty and bones returned to dust. How can this body bear to walk alone once more? You may go now.
It is not easy for you to walk together.
Young lady, remember that fate has its own course. There is no need for fear, for the darkness shall eventually yield to light. As I descended, a chill crept into my limbs. Upon reaching the corner of the staircase on the second floor, I spotted Li Hengzhan standing below. Upon seeing me, he immediately broke into a smile. He bounded up the stairs in a few swift steps to support me. Are you tired? This Starview Tower is rather high. Would you like me to carry you? I grasped his hand, warmth flooding back into me. Let us return home. Once seated in the carriage, I watched as Li Hengzhan diligently massaged my calves, his demeanor exceedingly attentive. Li Hengzhan, if one day I were to die, what would you do? His movements faltered for a fleeting moment. In a light-hearted tone, he replied, Then I shall die alongside you. For every day you live, I shall live one day longer, avenging those who have wronged you, making arrangements for your affairs, and then purchasing a larger coffin that can accommodate both of us. After all that, I will come to find you. Remember to walk slowly on your journey, so I can catch up. He continued speaking, but when silence followed, he quickly crouched before me, apologizing. Did I frighten you? I was merely speaking nonsense. Do not take it to heart. I have never harmed a soul in my life, not even a chicken, so how could I ever kill? I embraced his neck. I am not angry. I merely feel for you. Why do you hold me in such regard, more precious than your own life?
Li Hengzhan.
When did you ever meet me? I did not question his words, for he had already acted upon them. When my life came to an end, he took his own, solely to pursue me on the road to the underworld. Yet, he remains unaware of whether souls exist after death, or if he could truly catch up with me. Even if he did, I might not recognize him. Noticing my emotional turmoil, Li Hengzhan gently patted my back, reminiscent of how my mother would soothe me to sleep in my childhood. The first time I saw you was at a banquet held by the Marquis of Chongping when we were young. I found a sachet and did not know who had lost it. Xue Su claimed to know its owner. After I handed it to him, I felt uneasy and followed him, only to see you two conversing. He appeared somewhat distressed. I know he deceived me, and I have regretted it all these years. If only I had not trusted him so easily, perhaps you and he would never have met. Perhaps the person you would have known would have been me. I was so foolish. So it was Xue Su had been deceiving me long before. The person I should have known was Li Hengzhan. He reproached himself. Yet how could he be blamed? I prided myself on my intelligence, yet I was still ensnared by Xue Su's deliberate gentility. There was a sense of relief. Fortunately, I had lived a relatively long life. That night, seizing the opportunity while Kaiwe was absent, I confided in Li Hengzhan. I wish to ask you to investigate a person named Zheng Huayan, who resides in Huaihua Village, Qingxi County. He is a scholar, and I wish to learn about his life, temperament, and family circumstances. Very well, he acquiesced promptly. You do not wish to know what I intend to do with this information? If you wish to tell me, you will, and if you do not, there must be a reason for your silence. He took my hand, serious in demeanor. Speak plainly about what you wish me to do. There is no need for pleasantries. If you say please, it makes me feel disheartened. I hope you can command me without any burdens. I shot him a disapproving glance. I do not appreciate you constantly belittling yourself in my presence. You ought to amend that. He could not suppress his laughter. Are you concerned for me, my lady? That brings me joy, but alas, I cannot change. I take delight in cherishing you, for to me, you are paramount. I found myself at a loss for words. I felt for him, yet he seemed to revel in it. His eyes sparkled with mischief. However, since you are concerned about me, then this evening, I immediately covered his mouth.
Do not speak nonsense.
The warmth of his hand brushed against mine, igniting a flurry of emotions within me. Embarrassed and angry, and constrained by the carriage's movement, I lowered my voice.
Lienzhen.
He clutched his chest, laughing uncontrollably, and leaned in to kiss my face. My lady, how can you be so endearing? On the day of my return home, my father took a special leave from work. The moment my mother saw me, her eyes glimmered with unshed tears. Ayu pulled me aside and whispered, "Are you all right?
How has he treated you?
Has he bullied you? He helped me down from the carriage just now." Ayu pouted. What if he is merely pretending for our sake? One can know a person's face, but not their heart. She scrutinized me closely. However, you do appear to be in good spirits, as if you have fared quite well. Turning to glance at Li Hengzhan, he seemed to have deliberately adopted a demeanor of composure, calculating his every step before my father. It was noteworthy that he could be so carefree in the presence of the emperor, lacking any sense of decorum. During dinner, Li Hengzhan seemed to shed his restraint, neglecting to eat for himself and only serving me food, leaving the other three in astonishment. I felt a bit embarrassed, yet he remained blissfully unaware. Why are you not eating? His familiarity brightened my mother's eyes as she exchanged a satisfied glance with me. I knew then that he was the type she admired. My mother, a martial general, had once braved the battlefield in her youth, acting with great valor. After earning military accolades and reaching marriageable age, she was compelled to return to the capital. At that time, my father had already entered the Hanlin Academy. My mother fell in love with my father at a court banquet, and when the emperor inquired about her desired reward, she pointed at my father and asked, "Is this gentleman married? If not, could he be granted to me?" According to my mother, my father was so startled that he dropped his cup, shattering it on the floor. My father, being unmarried at the time, found himself quite taken with such a bold woman. Thus, he consented. At that time, my father was the envy of many in the capital, for my maternal grandfather was a distinguished general of high rank, and my mother was his cherished daughter, spoiled since childhood. To my father, marrying my mother felt like a descent in status. Yet, she chose him over a plethora of young, talented nobles, causing quite a stir. They mocked my father for marrying a fierce woman, yet he cared not for the jests directed at him. However, upon hearing others insult my mother, the scholarly man who had been meek for decades would roll up his sleeves and confront them. My mother favored those who were handsome, yet possessed no ill intentions. Li Hengzhan fit this description perfectly. Upon returning to the royal residence, Li Hengzhan's attendant handed him an envelope. He led me back to the courtyard and presented the letter to me. Within are the details you wish to uncover. I skimmed through it briefly. The information about Zheng Huayan indeed aligned with what Kaiwa had said. Zheng Huayan was now a successful candidate for the imperial examination, awaiting the spring exams to be recognized as a scholar. If he performed exceptionally well, he could even become a jinshi. The letter stated that Zheng Huayan was an only child, and his parents were deeply affectionate, showering him with care. His disposition was cheerful, and the villagers spoke well of him. Another page contained a portrait of Li Hengzhan, confirming that he was indeed quite handsome. My earlier suspicions evaporated, replaced by a sense of coldness. As I recalled a trivial incident from my past life, a vivid memory emerged. At that time, I had ventured out of the city to offer incense, passing by the government office where I heard a woman crying out in anguish, brandishing a blood-stained letter. She appeared to be in her 40s, kneeling outside, and her words were soaked in sorrow. My son, who had just completed the spring examination, was murdered. I beseech you, my lord, find the wretch who did this and avenge my son. At that moment, a passerby from a nearby carriage shook his head disapprovingly. Another scholar, it seems. Why is it that every spring examination, a few of them perish? I could only lament the fickleness of fate. Reflecting on it now, a chilling thought surged within me. Perhaps it was not an accident, but a scandal of monumental proportions in the imperial examination system. The examination, crucial for selecting talent for the nation, would be a grave matter indeed if someone were to engage in widespread malfeasance. If this matter remained undiscovered until my death, it would undoubtedly be of great significance, beyond my capacity to confront. Li Hengzhan gazed at me with concern. What troubles you? I shook my head, nothing. I crumpled the paper in my hand. My lord, the princess is seeking you. Li Hengzhan looked at me, and I smiled softly. Go ahead, I am fine. I felt somewhat at a loss. In the current capital, my father was the head of all officials, and my husband was of royal blood. I feared any entanglement with either party. Kaiwa entered with pastries. Miss, these were sent from the kitchen, said to be royal recipes, incredibly delicious. As she spoke, she could not help but swallow with anticipation. I offered her a pastry, which she eagerly munched on, her eyes sparkling with delight. Observing her joy, I recalled her tear-stained face from my past life, and I felt a turmoil within me. Kaiwa, I harbor a secret. I may have uncovered a fragment of the truth, but I dare not delve deeper. I fear that our current tranquil existence might be shattered, yet if I remain inactive, my heart will be restless. I thought of Kaiwa, of the promising Zheng Huayan who met a tragic end, of the grieving mother who lost her son, and of the innocent scholars who perished. Kaiwa wiped her hands. Miss, you know I am not versed in grand philosophies, but I suppose you wish to discern whether it is better to have peace of body or peace of mind. As for me, if I were to carry a burden in my heart, unable to let it go, I would be trapped in that matter for a lifetime. For me, it might be better to be dead. Should I take action, at least I would have accomplished something. Otherwise, I would neither have resolved the matter nor enjoyed life. And that would be a loss. If Li Hengzhan has his destiny to fulfill and Xue Su has his karma to repay, then do I not also have my path to tread? Perhaps this is the greater significance of my return, to restore a semblance of peace to the world. I still recall my father's teachings from my youth. The weight of a great nation lies in its governance and the welfare of its people. Those in power must endeavor for the happiness of the common folk, to honor their own conscience and the dignity of their office. I trust my father has not forgotten these words. If this matter is connected to him, as his daughter, I shall share in his penance. As for the royals, as rulers of the realm, they must not treat lives as expendable. Li Hengzhan is quite fond of staying close to me. Wherever I go, he follows. Even as I paint in the study, he frequently pours me tea or offers me pastries. At this rate, I may grow plump. Li Hengzhan seems indifferent. In life, the essentials of eating, dressing, residing, and conducting oneself place eating at the forefront, reminding us that no matter the grandeur of heaven and earth, sustenance reigns supreme. Besides, I believe you appear a tad too slender. His enthusiasm grew as he gestured towards my waist. Indeed, you are rather thin. You must eat more. It is unwise to sit idly all day, as it leaves one breathless after a few steps and prone to illness. How about this? Starting tomorrow, I shall teach you some exercises, perhaps the 5 animal frolics, to promote longevity. I contemplated that such exercises might not befit a noble lady. Yet, recalling Ah Yu and my mother, who both practiced martial arts and enjoyed robust health, I swallowed my objections. Perhaps it would be wise to learn and strive for longevity in this life. Thinking of Zheng Huayan, I resolved to return home. I must go back home tomorrow. Will that be? The notion of a married woman returning to her parental home too frequently might be deemed inappropriate. Having just returned today, I feared others would gossip about the royal residence. That's perfectly fine. Staying for 10 days or half a month would be even better. I wish to spend more time in your courtyard. I realized I had been overly concerned. On my way home, I peered through the gap in the carriage curtain and observed the bustling streets. With the spring examination approaching, many scholars from distant lands flocked to the capital. Countless individuals clad in long robes filled the streets, their eyes glistening with dreams of the city. They arrived brimming with hope, Yet had they ever considered the possibility of meeting their demise here? Brother Huayan, what a surprise to see you here. Where are you staying? Stop the carriage. The carriage came to a halt. I lifted the curtain to look out, and Li Hengzhan followed my gaze. A man in a blue robe, with a noble countenance, bowed lightly to another. Brother Ziyu, I am staying at the Tongfu.
And you?
The man named Ziyu embraced him, laughing heartily. I am also at the Tongfu. I told you we were fated to meet. I had long hoped you would join me, but you refused to listen. And now, look, fate has brought us together. The two departed together, and Li Hengzhan beckoned for a guard to approach. Was that not Zheng Huayan? Indeed, it was him. Li Hengzhan gestured for the guard to step aside. I lowered the curtain. Let us proceed to the Xiang residence. Fortunately, I had asked Kaiwe to remain at the estate to assist me with the dowry. I had not anticipated encountering Zheng Huayan. If Kaiwe were present, she would undoubtedly recognize him at first glance. Given Shuesu's prior example, I would not easily trust others based solely on their appearance or demeanor. Should Zheng Huayan prove duplicitous, discovering my association with Kaiwe might lead to unforeseen complications. It was not that I doubted Kaiwe, rather. Her extraordinary trust in this neighbor could render her vulnerable to exploitation. After spending some time at home and conversing with my mother, Ayu rushed in from outside. Why didn't you inform me beforehand that you were coming? What if I had returned late and missed you? She sipped a cup of tea, fanning herself with her hand, her forehead and nose glistening with perspiration. My mother chuckled. When your sister is away, you run wild. Only she can manage you. Ayu shook her head. You say that, but grandfather mentioned that mother was even wilder than I am. I learned it all from her. Did you come back to see father about something? I asked, astonished. She shot me a bashful glare. What kind of look is that? I am quite clever, you know. Her tone was somewhat unnatural. Do you think the Li family has no objections to your sudden return? My mother playfully tapped her on the back of the head. Such a lack of decorum. You should either address him as my lord or brother-in-law. How can you be so disrespectful? You looked at me with a wronged expression. I smiled gently and ruffled her hair. Mother is right. You have indeed been a bit impolite. The Lord is understanding, but if outsiders overheard you, they might say our daughter lacks proper manners. She pouted. I've said it before, I'm not foolish. How could I speak carelessly outside? Just then, a maid entered from outside. Madam, the Lord has returned and is in the study. I stood up. I will go find father. Ayu, please keep mother company. Upon reaching the study door, the young servant was about to pay his respects when I raised my hand to stop him. Cough, cough, cough. Coughing resonated from the study. As I entered, my father pressed his fist to his lips, his other hand wielding a brush, diligently inscribing something. Father, I called out. He set down the brush and smiled warmly at me. I heard from the servants that you had returned as I approached the door. Have you encountered any troubles? He followed up with a couple of coughs. I hurried over to pour him some warm tea. Why haven't you taken a leave to rest for a few days? Even when you're unwell. He sipped the tea, his brow furrowing unconsciously. How could I rest? The spring imperial examination is approaching, and matters are complex. Many officials are indecisive. He shook his head. I began to massage his shoulders. They are officials, and you are one as well. If you must shoulder every concern, what purpose do they serve? My father chuckled at my somewhat petulant words. Indeed, the newly appointed officials these years have been rather inept. They cannot compare to my contemporaries. Casually, I continued. I once read a tale in a book about a destitute scholar, renowned for his intellect, who ascended from local examinations to national trials, yet found himself absent from the list of successful candidates. He believed himself to be exceptionally gifted. How could he be overlooked? Thus, he struck the gavel, only to be punished for it, presenting his work word for word before the emperor. Upon investigation, it was discovered that his work had been falsely attributed to another, as someone had taken bribes to manipulate the outcome, usurping his rightful recognition. My father stroked his beard thoughtfully. There is no need for you to dwell on this. His Majesty places great importance on the spring examination. He personally supervises the grading each year, a practice that has remained unchanged throughout the years, even during the reign of the late emperor. Nevertheless, this matter should be investigated, just in case, I replied, listening to my father's words. I remained silent on my way back. Had I truly misjudged? Were these merely coincidences? Upon returning to the Wang residence, I perched by the window, my gaze unwaveringly fixed on the outside world from dawn until dusk. Li Hengzhan personally brought over pastries. You haven't dined yet. What has transpired?
Speak to me.
And perhaps I can assist you, he offered. My dear, as husband and wife, you can place your trust in me. Retracting my gaze, I turned to him. Can you share your insights regarding the people of the Imperial Palace? In their entirety, truthfully. While I held doubts about my husband, I placed my trust in Li Hengzhan. He replied with a casual demeanor. The emperor is quite admirable, and so is the empress. The princes and princesses are equally commendable. Just as I began to lose hope of gleaning anything further, he lightly tapped my palm with his finger. His expression turned grave, starkly contrasting his earlier lightheartedness. A terrifying thought arose within me. Li Hengzhan was under surveillance. Even within his own home, he dared not speak freely. Yet he was the heir, and his father was the only prince of the realm. Who could instill such trepidation in him, unless it was that very individual? My grip on his hand tightened, trembling uncontrollably. My dear, please eat something. You wouldn't want to go hungry tonight. Sensing the hidden meaning in his words, I took the pastries and began to eat slowly. Was the Li Hengzhan before me truly his authentic self? As we embraced and drifted to sleep, in the dead of night, he gently roused me, lifting the bedboard to reveal a hidden passage beneath. Supporting myself on his hand, I descended, and he closed the bedboard behind us, leading me deeper into the shadows. At the innermost part lay a secret chamber, furnished with blades, weapons, books, and a bed. This place is known only to the two of us. Throughout all the realms, he declared, guiding me to lie down and tucking me in. Are you being watched? His movements paused momentarily before he chuckled softly. You are astute. I sensed a marked change in Li Hengzhan's demeanor. Tell me about your story, the fears that haunt you, the secrets buried deep within your heart. You may have heard of it, my dear, how the palace once faced a rebellion, quelled by the emperor through sheer will. At the late emperor's deathbed, he bequeathed a decree for the emperor to inherit the throne. This is the narrative of His Majesty's ascension. I was well aware of these events. Despite my youth at the time, my father held a prominent position, so such tales reached my ears. He shifted the conversation. However, the truth diverges from this account. The rebellion was instigated by the emperor himself, and the decree was forged. The late emperor met his demise at his hands. A chill ran down my spine, and my blood felt as though it had turned to ice. How do you know this? He embraced me tightly, as if to shield me. Because I was there, I witnessed everything unfold from beneath the late emperor's bed. I hid there for 3 entire days, ultimately escaping through a dog hole in the palace wall when no one was watching. Since then, I have felt as if someone is ever watching me. It is easy to deduce. A casual inquiry would reveal that I had entered the palace that day, forcing me to feign ignorance. I have seen the authentic edict of the late emperor, though it has since vanished. I recalled the rumor circulating. His Majesty was initially overlooked among the princes, gaining prominence only after many of them had perished or been demoted. Do you know who the emperor's mother was? A dancer from the Moon Kingdom, of no noble rank, who passed shortly after giving birth. The significance of such a fact about the Moon Kingdom was astonishing. Seemingly no one knew. What else do you know? I am eager to learn. He continued, the emperor and empress do not share a good relationship. While many couples exhibit a facade of harmony while harboring discord, I find it peculiar, for the former empress was once very close to him. Their relationship soured during the year the crown prince was established. That year, the crown prince was merely 15, the 3rd year of the emperor's reign. Logically, if he had a son, the crown prince should have been appointed upon ascending the throne, as the position is foundational to the court. Indeed, without a crown prince, those with ulterior motives might instigate chaos for personal gain. However, had a successor been designated early on, even if something were to happen to the emperor, the crown prince could uphold stability, preventing turmoil from engulfing the realm. Eventually, the emperor did appoint a crown prince, but from that day forth, the empress seldom met with him, only appearing in times of necessity, rarely leaving Kuan Ning Palace. As if she were. I interjected, as if she were imprisoned. He nodded. The emperor and empress were youthful spouses. The The former empress was the daughter of a third-rank official. Although she could not compare to the princes, the emperor, being disregarded, often faced bullying in the palace. The empress once aided him, and their union blossomed into love. However, they bore only the crown prince. All other princes and princesses were sired by the emperor with various concubines. At this juncture, he promptly swore, "Rest assured, in this life, the next, and the one after that, I shall only want you. I will not take a wife, nor concubines, nor visit the pleasure quarters. I am not like those others." I extricated myself from his embrace, sitting upright. "Li Hengzhan, I wish to share something with you." He propped himself up on his hands, his gaze intent upon me, awaiting my words. "I had a dream, wherein Caillou revealed to me that her benefactor had died, having hanged herself after the spring examination. I also dreamt of other scholars who met untimely deaths after participating in the examination. Thus, upon awakening, I requested your assistance in investigating. I suspect there may be malfeasance in the imperial examinations, implicating His Majesty." I pressed my lips together, feeling somewhat uncertain. It was a bold assertion indeed, one that could be deemed earth-shattering, yet it encapsulated my suspicions. Considering what my father and Li Hengzhan had conveyed, the gravity of the situation was undeniable. Moreover, if it were not of such significance, why would the National Master risk his own well-being to ensure I returned with my memories? What if it truly is him? What if we attract calamity upon ourselves? He gently patted the back of my hand. "Fear not, for I shall shoulder everything. Yet I would rather be mistaken. If it is indeed true, then I cannot bear to imagine the horrific events that must have transpired in the past life." It is no wonder the national advisor claimed that Li Hengzhan is that person. It turns out that he is not only an eyewitness but also a victim. For all these years, he has had to conceal his true feelings, living as a mere reflection of what that person wished to see. All the affection and concern were mere facades, mere sugar-coated blades. If Li Hengzhan were to exhibit the slightest hint of deviation, that sharp edge would slice through his throat. "Li Hengzhan, you must have endured considerable hardship over the years." He enveloped me in his embrace. "Not at all. How could a dandy like me suffer? Besides, marrying you is a stroke of fortune I never dared to dream of." He spoke with such ease, yet how could I not perceive the underlying truth? A sensitive and precocious child who has endured such terrifying experiences, who can dare to voice it? Perhaps he sometimes has nightmares, waking in the dead of night. Yet there is no one to confide in. For many years, he has buried it so deeply that he has come to believe he is merely a carefree young lord, ignorant of the world. "Li Hengzhan, if given a choice, would you prefer stability or peril?" He inquired. What would be lost with stability? What would be gained with peril? He truly is astute. I do not know. Perhaps it is a world of peace and countless lives, or perhaps something else entirely. "Ashu, am I in your dreams? What do I appear as?" I suddenly lifted my gaze to meet his calm, smiling eyes, those pure orbs piercing my heart like an arrow. "You have entered the court, living a tranquil and stable life. Your health is robust, and you have lived for a very long time. But you are not there, are you? Ashu, did you come for me? I should have known. Your sudden choice of me must mean something monumental has occurred, and you must have suffered. How regrettable that the version of me in your dreams failed to protect you." I turned my face away, my nose tinged with acidity, my eyes growing warm. A single scalding tear falling. He raised his hand, the tear blossoming in his palm. My head rested against his chest, my hands clutching his waist.
"Li Hengzhan,
How can you be so kind, so much, so that I do not know how to repay you? Then live a long life filled with joy. That shall be your repayment to me." I stepped back, and he lifted a soft handkerchief from his chest to dry my tears. "Ashu, if it is what you desire, then it is what I desire too. If you seek stability, I shall grant you a lifetime of it. If you seek peace of mind, I will exert every effort to fulfill your wishes. I have already attained a lifetime of stability. This time, I yearn for the truth. To understand the innocents who lost their lives unjustly, to comprehend the price paid by the national advisor. I cannot in good conscience enjoy my peace. Since the advisor has placed such high hopes upon us, it is evident that we are the ones to break the impasse. Occupying a position of power, I cannot stand idly by. Help me, assist them, and help yourself as well. If the current situation can be altered, perhaps he can truly be himself. To rescue that helpless and fearful Li Hengzhan of his youth. The next day, Li Hengzhan entered the imperial palace. That afternoon, an official arrived bearing a decree, appointing Li Hengzhan as the vice minister of the ancestral temple. Li Hengzhan received the edict with great joy, slipping a plump purse into the official's hands. He then turned to flaunt the decree before me. I told you the emperor dotes on me. You said I was idle at home, yet here I am, stepping into an official role.
What will you say now?
He struck a proud pose, hands on his hips. I noticed the official glance back at us as he reached the door. Have you gone to request an official position from His Majesty? Li Hengzhan replied with pride. As the heir apparent, now married, how could I remain without a proper endeavor? I petitioned His Majesty this morning. Truly, it must have been a burden for the emperor, who went to great lengths to secure him such a respectable position devoid of power struggles.
I understood Li Hengzhan's intentions.
Only by immersing himself in the whirlpool could he uncover the root of the issue. He was stepping into the fray. You must perform your duties diligently and not allow anyone to find a weakness to report to His Majesty. In my past life, Li Hengzhan entered the court only after Xue Su had taken up an official post. It was because of me. This time, he entered the court now.
Still for my sake.
He squeezed my wrist and I met his gaze. Of course, since I have chosen this path, I shall execute it well and will not allow others to bully me. Who am I, after all? I am the sole heir of the great Yan. Though he was the one ensnared in a quagmire, he still comforted me, urging me not to worry. I tightened my grip on his hand.
Li Hengzhan.
If you are unafraid, then I shall not be either. If a price must be paid, I will accompany you. Li Hengzhan became busier, while I remained at home, meticulously contemplating the myriad events of my past life. Kai Wei entered. Miss, there are many scholars coming to the capital for the spring examination, and I overheard chatter that the tea-houses are bustling with them, engaging in poetry and philosophical discussions, quite lively indeed. Do you wish to join the commotion? She smiled shyly, nervously fidgeting with the hem of her garment. You are aware, miss, that I have always been curious about such gatherings, but they are places for scholars. And as a mere maid, I cannot attend. Confucius once said, education knows no class distinction. It is perfectly understandable for you to aspire to these pursuits. You have been by my side since childhood, and you have read and learned much. If you wish to go, then go. There is no law in this dynasty forbidding women from listening to others discuss philosophy. Her face lit up with a smile. Then, miss, could you accompany me? I am afraid to go alone. I found it somewhat amusing. After all these years, she has never once expressed fear. Yet now she is apprehensive about venturing into a crowded place. After marrying into the Xue family, I was busy fulfilling my filial duties, which left little room for her to engage with such matters. Perhaps she longed to go in our past life, but my circumstances at the time prevented her from suggesting it. Though I am the daughter of a noble family, I have faced peril from the maids around me, nearly leading to my abduction. At that time, Kai Wei risked her life to protect me, and afterward, I had other maids serve elsewhere. I kept only Kai Wei by my side, my most devoted companion. In my past life, upon marrying into the Xue family, Kai Wei witnessed the hypocrisy of its members. She wept and apologized to me, lamenting that she had not thoroughly investigated who Xue Su truly was. Had she known, she would not have allowed me to marry him. I felt both amusement and tenderness. She was merely a young maid. How could I expect her to know what I did not? She devoted her life to my side, more so than my parents or you ever did. In this world, she is the one who has accompanied me the longest. How could I possibly refuse such a small request? Upon seeing my nod, her face blossomed with joy. Miss, I must confess, there is another reason I wish to go out. You know the brother of my neighbor? I believe he will be participating in this spring examination. I thought, how wonderful it would be if I were to encounter him. Seeing her expression, I did not wish to disappoint her. If she were to meet him, then so be it. I doubt Zheng Huaiyan would dare to act improperly. When we set out, Kai Wei returned briefly to her room. Upon her return, she clutched a bulging purse, patting it affectionately. Are you planning to give all this money to Zheng Huaiyan if you encounter him? Kai Wei nodded emphatically. When I was a child, had it not been for his generosity in sharing his food with me, I would not have survived to this day. His family is not particularly affluent. Although he has successfully passed the imperial examination, the county magistrate will certainly provide him with some silver. However, in a poor family, the path to wealth is fraught with difficulties, and he cannot afford to deprive himself too much if he wishes to pursue the civil service examination. I furrowed my brow slightly. Are you not setting aside some dowry for yourself? Kaiwa looked momentarily taken aback before shaking her head. I have never contemplated marriage. Brother Zheng saved my life, so I am willing to devote everything I have to repay him. However, you, miss, are the most important person to me. My life belongs to you, and I wish to remain by your side forever. This was not the first time she had uttered such sentiments, but in her previous life, she had been more mature and composed, her demeanor imbued with an air of melancholy that belied her youth. Indeed, this life as Kaiwa was different from her predecessor. This transformation mirrored my own. I suppressed the tremor in my heart. Kaiwa, what are your thoughts on Shuesu? At that moment, she remarked, young Master Shui possesses an admirable demeanor and is a commendable individual. Miss, I implore you not to be angered, but he had previously been courting you, only to propose to the second miss on the day of the engagement. I find him to be unworthy. The images of 2 lifetimes began to intertwine before my eyes. No, something was amiss. In my past life, I had indeed considered Shuesu to be a fine match, someone suitable for marriage. She had stated that the Shui family was not embroiled in courtly intrigues. The Shui family would dare not bully me, given my father's influence. Since my rebirth, I have observed the surrounding affairs and individuals with great scrutiny, fearful of any alterations. Yet, I had overlooked Kaiwa, the young girl who had been by my side daily. If I could have a second chance, what of Kaiwa? Would she also return anew? I inhabit the present, while she remains tethered to the past, and the former me was blissfully unaware. The current Kaiwa is equally oblivious. It is as if we are ensnared in a circle. She altered my past, and I, in turn, am reshaping her present. Yet, I cannot fathom why Kaiwa urges me to wed Shuesu. Her words echoed in my ears. Miss, my life is yours. Miss, I wish for you to live a stable life, free from illness and calamity. Miss, do not fear. Kaiwa will always be by your side. I gazed at her beaming smile. Kaiwa, what role do you play in this absurd yet wondrous tale? As the carriage traveled along the road, it suddenly came to a halt, causing me to lurch forward. Kaiwa immediately grasped my arm, and once she confirmed I was unharmed, she exited the carriage. What has happened? A woman ran out in front of us and accidentally collided with the carriage. I stepped out to find a woman on the ground, clutching her abdomen. Kaiwa had already steadied her. Miss, what shall we do? Where is the nearest medical clinic? The coachman replied. It would take about the time it takes to burn a stick of incense on foot. Help her into the carriage. We shall change course to the clinic. Once inside the carriage, the previously unconscious woman opened her eyes, grasped my hand, and pressed a note into it. I know what you seek. I crumpled the note in my hand, my gaze falling upon the unremarkable woman. She took my hand and scribbled a few words in my palm. The death of the late emperor. I tightened my grip on the woman's hand, halting her actions, my eyes warily darting outside. Upon reaching the clinic, the doctor examined her and merely stated that there was nothing serious, advising a month of proper care and to avoid heavy labor. Kaiwa went to prepare medicine while the woman lay in bed, watching me. Here, you may speak freely. My vigilance did not wane. There is no rule in the clinic against speaking. Miss Ming, you know what I am referring to. I fixed her with a sharp gaze.
Who informed you?
She gently shook her head. I cannot disclose that. She continued, I understand what you wish to accomplish. I harbor no ill intent towards you. I am here to assist you, for your goals align with mine. She hesitated briefly. I am a maidservant who once served the late Emperor, Sui Wan. My fingertips trembled, and I feigned composure. What proof do you possess? She did not seem angered by my demeanor. I possessed the late Emperor's edict. This aligned with what Li Hengzhan had mentioned. He had seen the edict, but could find no trace of it. Sui Wan looked at me, as if I were her last hope. The edict states that the prince is the rightful heir to the throne. The late emperor suspected foul play regarding the actions of the princes, as if they were being deliberately guided. By the time he realized the truth, Only the prince and the current emperor remained among the royal sons. The current emperor is of the bloodline of Yu Kingdom and has never been considered a candidate for the throne. Thus, the late emperor left the edict, entrusted it to me, and orchestrated my exit from the palace. He instructed that if the news of his death reached me and the throne was not ascended by the prince, I must conceal it well and wait for the right moment. The destiny of Dian's realm could rest in anyone's hands, but it must never fall into foreign hands. For those not of my kin are bound to harbor treachery. The emperor's unexpected birth was due to the late emperor's kindness. Yet he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. In recent years, the strength of Dian has gradually waned, and the common people are suffering. He merely seeks to enjoy the power of the throne during his reign, and upon his death, to lead Dian to its demise. This is his vendetta. Speculation is one thing. Truly glimpsing the truth is another. I felt as though my throat was constricted. But he has been the emperor for so many years. This is his realm.
Suivan scoffed coldly.
Because this realm was not won by him. It was seized. He is not a true citizen of Dian, and thus does not regard its people as his own. He is a thief. How could he genuinely cherish what he has stolen? A dog, even if cloaked in a wolf's guise, remains a dog unchanged. Miss Ming, you have the power to effect change. Should this realm remain in his grasp, Dian will vanish, and the people will suffer. This land will run red with blood. She descended from the bed and solemnly knelt before me. I implore you, Miss Ming, to aid me. With that, she lowered her head to the ground. You, a mere maidservant, hold no official position and could easily remain uninvolved. Do you not realize this could cost you your life? Sui Wan rose, her expression calm, her gaze steadfast and fearless. The lips and teeth are interdependent. Indeed, I could distance myself, yet I am a citizen of Dian, and I cherish this land. I do not wish for Dian to vanish a century hence, nor for its people to be oppressed by foreign marauders. What is the cost of my life? What is a maidservant? Though I may be of lowly status, I comprehend righteousness. I crouched down to assist her to her feet. What a coincidence. We share the same aspiration. This was a responsibility I could not shirk. Yet, the one who could truly instigate change was not me, but Li Hengzhan. I was merely a crucial piece in this intricate puzzle. Sui Wan entrusted the edict to me, and I concealed it within my sleeve. Over the years,
Who has been aiding you?
after the late emperor's demise, his influence should have waned. It would be challenging for you to have remained unscathed all these years on your own. I must ascertain who our allies are. Sui Wan lowered her gaze, pondering for a moment. It was Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, who assisted me. This was both expected and surprising. Did the prince also perish at the hands of the emperor? Sui Wan's expression turned to one of sorrow and indignation. Indeed, the eldest princess and the prince were a match made in heaven. Upon discovering the emperor's treacherous ambitions, he murdered the prince to threaten the princess. Thankfully, she did not act impulsively, otherwise, she too would likely. The emperor has slain so many, yet why did he spare the prince and the eldest princess? Sui Wan appeared puzzled as well. Perhaps it is because they had both once aided the emperor. In the days of yore, His Majesty was often overlooked in his youth, neglected by those above him, leading to a lack of dedication from those below. It was only later that the Princess Royal, feeling a sense of pity for him, frequently arranged for someone to look after him. The prince, possessing a naturally kind disposition, extended his assistance to His Majesty on several occasions during that time. He had never shown an interest in the throne, perhaps deeming it a threat too distant to concern him, hence he remained. I sensed that the Princess Royal might possess knowledge beyond what she revealed. Kaiwa entered, carrying the prepared medicine. On our way back, I noticed Kaiwa appeared somewhat dejected. She touched her face and asked, "Miss, is there something on my face? Why do you keep looking at me?" I smiled gently. I simply think our Kaiwa has grown increasingly beautiful. A flush of crimson spread across her cheeks. "Oh, miss, how could I possibly be beautiful? You're just teasing me," she replied modestly. As I disembarked from the carriage, I instinctively glanced upwards, as if ensnared by an intricate web that enveloped me. It felt as though every step I took was preordained. Was my visit to Sui Wan merely a pretext for Kaiwa to escort me outside? I refrained from questioning her. I merely wished for her to divulge the truths she had been concealing from me. At this juncture, I could no longer regard Kaiwe as a mere naive maid. She bore the weight of many burdens, which must have been arduous for her. In my past life, during my twilight years, the nation was already in a state of decline. Neighboring countries frequently launched assaults, and Great Yen found itself in a perpetual retreat. The sovereign of that time had long since departed, replaced by the current heir apparent. Despite his earnest efforts, he could not withstand the overwhelming tide of adversity. Xue Su had once raged in fury, lamenting the absence of capable individuals among the court. Great Yen had become akin to a feeble warhorse, existing only in name. Once a beacon to myriad nations, it now succumbed to the whim of any nation bold enough to engage in battle. I resided in the inner chambers, shielded from much of the turmoil. Perhaps shortly after my demise, Great Yen met its inevitable end. The populace was slaughtered, and the land was divided. What remained for future generations was a landscape of devastation and a history not easily recounted. How would those who follow perceive the current state of Great Yen? As powerless and tragic. I yearn for a different conclusion. I entrusted my final edict to Li Hengzhan, having fulfilled my duties, leaving the rest to him. He is deemed the fated one by the national master, and I have faith in his success. We shall prevail. Before that, I desired an audience with the Princess Royal. I visited the princess's residence, where the servants guided me to the pond's edge. The Princess Royal was engaged in fishing. "You have arrived? Please take a seat," she beckoned. I settled beside her as she raised her hand, signaling for everyone to withdraw. "I surmise you seek me out because you harbor questions, believing I can provide the answers," she stated. "Indeed, I beseech your highness to enlighten me," I replied earnestly. She fanned herself gently. "Long ago, I arrived here, feeling both alien and exhilarated by my surroundings. I believed I was the destined one, capable of averting the impending collapse. I thought that if I could eradicate the source of the threat, subsequent calamities would be averted. Yet, as those around me began to perish, the last being my husband, I realized my impotence, while you possess the ability to effect change. Every dilemma has its resolution, and you are that resolution. In our homeland, this place forms part of our history, grand yet mournful, steeped in melancholy. We often indulge in hypotheticals, pondering whether Great Yen could have avoided its downfall, whether things might have been better without the accompanying humiliation. Beyond this, I can say no more. You must strive forward. The burdens you carry are far too great and weighty."
What does strive imply?
I inquired. She laughed heartily, giving me a thumbs up. "It simply means to exert effort. This gesture signifies that you are remarkable." Li Hengzhan may have already commenced his endeavors, busily occupied. One fateful night, he held me close, his arm snug around my waist. "My lady, tomorrow I shall arrange for you to leave the city to pay your respects. You will accompany them. Once all is concluded, I will seek you out. Fear not, your mother and sister will be there. You shall not be alone." My heart tightened. "Very well, I shall go with them, but only to avoid being a hindrance to you. Should you perish, I shall follow you. You have accompanied me in death once. I shall not allow you to walk the path of the afterlife alone. I can only hope that what the national master foretells is true, that there exists light amidst the darkness. Despite the storms to come, you shall not perish." The following day, I boarded the carriage alongside my mother-in-law, with another carriage carrying my mother and Ayao. After greeting my mother-in-law, Ayao joined me in the same carriage. "What prompted you to invite my mother and me to pay our respects?" I mused. This must surely be Li Hengzhan's pretext. He had orchestrated everything meticulously. As the carriage reached the foot of the mountain, the temple appeared unusually deserted compared to previous visits, yet I knew that guardians must be discreetly stationed nearby. We settled within the temple, and that night, unable to sleep, I found myself in the courtyard gazing toward the capital. Hearing some commotion, Ayao emerged, stifling yawns. "Sister, what occupies your thoughts?" she asked, touching my hand and frowning as she warmed it with her breath. "Why are you not wearing more layers?"
Ayao.
"What was the wish you penned the other day?" I inquired. With great enthusiasm, Ayao declared, "I hope to become a general like mother, to fight on the battlefield and protect our homeland. Your wish shall undoubtedly come true, and you will become a general celebrated throughout history. Sister, everything will be all right, won't it?" I observed her expression as she bit her lip, her gaze tinged with uncertainty. I sensed that turmoil bruise in the capital. Otherwise, how could my husband, who is usually so attached, refrain from accompanying you to pay respects? He is not one to leave your side. Fear not. I shall safeguard you. I brought my sword with me when I came. Yao had indeed been a general in her past life, serving on the frontiers, valiantly battling in defense of our land. Where she was stationed, the enemy dared not encroach, often retreating in disarray. Yet, she could only defend a single location, while Great Yen had rotted from its very core. Thankfully, she lived a long life. At least I knew she would still be alive when I met my end. I was grateful for Yao's longevity and thankful my father passed away early. Had he witnessed the subsequent decline of Great Yen, the anguish and helplessness would have surely tormented him further. Within the temple, we remained the sole occupants alongside a few monks. I knelt at the feet of the Buddha, reciting the scriptures repeatedly. That night, I heard the clash of weapons, and as I rushed outside, Yao had already brought my mother-in-law to join me. We hurried to my mother's quarters. My mother and Yao shielded us, each wielding a long sword, their blades glinting in the moonlight. Sure, do not fear. With me here, the ruffians dare not act recklessly. The tumult outside escalated, footfalls, roars. Gradually, the clamor subsided, and we emerged from the room. A young man clad in armor appeared, declaring, "Lady of the house, I am here by the young master's command to protect you all." The princess scrutinized him closely. "Aren't you that scoundrel from Lin Taifu's household? Always indulging in revelry, yet here you are in a different guise." The youth appeared somewhat sheepish. "One should not judge by appearances. I am quite formidable in truth. Watch out." Suddenly, an arrow shot forth from the shadows, and Kaiwa interposed herself before me, the arrow piercing her heart. Her pink attire was stained crimson. I stood frozen, until Yao pulled me back into the room. The young man carried Kaiwa inside, blood spilling from his mouth. I cradled Kaiwa in my arms, using my handkerchief to staunch the flow of blood. "Fetch a physician," she implored, clutching my hand. "Miss, I have something I wish to share with you. Do not speak. Once you recover, I will have ample time to listen." "They have gone to summon a doctor. Miss, I can no longer endure this life. Please allow me to share a few words with you." The onlookers discreetly withdrew, leaving the room to us. "Actually, my name is Li Huiyan. My father was the late crown prince, and my mother was the crown princess. After my father's death, my mother also passed away. I was hidden away by my nurse, who intended to take me away, but she too met her demise. I fell into the hands of a family who made me their daughter. One day, when hunger overwhelmed me, a young Taoist priest saved me. He told me that I could not perish, for I had a purpose to fulfill. He brought me to your side, instructing me on when to act. He said you could save countless lives, including Zheng Huaiyan. I regret the burdens you have had to bear. If there is a next life, I shall ensure you live it in peace, caring for nothing else. Miss, do not grieve for me. The National Master foretold that I might have to pay a price. And this is mine. Take care of yourself, and please give this pouch to Zheng Huaiyan, telling him I am grateful for the bread he provided." With these final words, she closed her eyes, her breath extinguished. As dawn broke, the sun rose, casting warmth upon her still form. "Kaiwa, the day has dawned. Come to me." Time passed, and the door swung open, revealing Li Hengzhan, his presence cold and bloodied. "Madam, I have returned." My eyes ached, tears long since dried. After a moment, I managed a faint smile. "That is good." Yet the warmth of the one in my arms could not be rekindled. I returned to the capital with Tsayue's lifeless body. I revealed her identity to the world, ensuring her burial in the royal tomb, alongside the late crown prince and crown princess. On her gravestone, she reclaimed her name, Li Huiyan, the cousin of Li Hengzhan. Xue Su had perished, reportedly struck down by stray arrows in a chaotic scene. Li Hengzhan ascended the throne and presided over the imperial examinations. During the palace test, I spotted Zheng Huaiyan seated below, diligently penning his work. Li Hengzhan personally appointed him as the top scholar. Upon exiting the grand hall, I instructed someone to detain him. "Commoner pays respects to Her Majesty the Queen. I've been entrusted with a token for you." A palace maid presented him with the pouch, and in an instant, Zhang Huayan's eyes glistened with tears. Where did the owner of this pouch encounter the queen? Please, I beseech you, tell me. She is the one I cherish. She instructed me to relay her gratitude for the bread you provided. Zhang Huayan clutched the pouch tightly, his complexion paling. After bowing to me, he turned to leave, his once proud demeanor now diminished. I called out to him, you should know her name. Her name is Li Huiyan, wife for wisdom and for peace. Thank you, your majesty. I now know what I must do. Li Hengzhan conferred an official title upon Zhang Huayan, who did not pursue any personal ambitions but devoted himself entirely to governance, safeguarding the heart of the one he loved in his own way. As the year drew to a close, she once again bowed before me. When I inquired about her future aspirations, she expressed a desire to guard the royal tomb. With your achievements, you could serve as a lady-in-waiting. She shook her head. No, I simply wish to stand watch over the tomb, just as I once did for His Majesty. After bidding farewell to the year-end, I returned home to find the princess already seated in the great hall, sipping tea. I may be leaving soon. Is that so? She shrugged. I am uncertain. It is merely a premonition, an instinct. If one day I should die, do not mourn for me. I am merely returning home. Now that circumstances have changed, how could you possibly remain as you once were? She pondered for a moment. Not necessarily. It is quite possible that the outcome will not alter, but new results will emerge. Parallel timelines. The same group of people, the same events. Your changes influence occurrences along a different path. The original timeline bears an unchangeable conclusion, yet perhaps in another world, a different me witnesses a divergent outcome. Ultimately, it is for the best. The princess departed, her premonition proving accurate. Half a month later, news arrived from the princess's residence. She had passed away in her sleep, never to awaken. Perhaps she had opened her eyes in another realm, returning to the life that was rightfully hers. You sought permission to journey to the borders. Though my mother was reluctant, recalling her own youth, she eventually acquiesced. She patted Yu's shoulder. Live well. Should you accidentally perish, you will bring shame upon me. Conversely, my father, fearing my mother's reaction, wept alone in the courtyard at night. Yet my mother overheard him. When she recounted it to me, she did so with a sense of triumph. Do you think I don't know him? On the day I became pregnant, he was hiding in the courtyard, crying. He wept at your births. Even at your wedding, he shed tears. I visited the national master. I heard from Huiyan that the young Taoist she encountered was you? The national master nodded. Indeed. I gazed at the aged figure before me, who bore the weight of years. He smiled ruefully. There is no escaping fate. You all must bear the consequences. As for me, defying destiny has its toll. Once, I too was youthful and beautiful. Among my peers, I was the fairest. My gratitude to you. He was a man of the outside world, not meant to meddle in such matters. I had heard that the immortals of Jushian Valley enjoyed longevity, maintaining youthful appearances even after centuries. The national master remained unperturbed. I am notoriously soft-hearted, unable to bear the suffering of living beings. As for life and death, they are but external possessions. As I descended from the stargazing tower, Li Hengzhan awaited me below, sunlight cascading around him. Upon seeing me, he extended his hand.
Come.
Let us return home. Home. The story concludes here. Thank you for listening. Until we meet again in the next tale.